My wife went to a party even though I asked her not to. In the end, I found out she cheated on me. My wife went to a party without me, even though I asked her not to go. Later, I found out she cheated on me there. I am 30 and my wife is 25. We've been married for 3 years and together for almost 6. We don't have kids or significant assets, but we have more debt than money in our bank account. We rent a house, and I am the primary breadwinner in our family. I earn about $4,000 a month, while she makes about $1,500. I work hard to provide her with a lifestyle she is used to. My work team is very friendly. One colleague, with whom I had worked for almost 3 years, invited me to join an amateur football league, which I have been playing in for 2 years now. My wife attended every one of my games, and I thought she was supporting me. But deep down, I always suspected she was more interested in the opportunity to drink. I usually limited my drinking because of the games, but as a spectator, she didn't hold back. After games, we, guys and girls, would gather at someone's house, go to a bar, and order pizza. A couple of weeks ago, our group decided to meet at one of my teammates' places in a neighboring town. After the game, I apologized and said we couldn't go because I had to get up early for work. On the way home, my wife texted one of the guys, whom I considered a friend, to give her a ride to the party. While still in the car, she asked for my permission to go. I refused, explaining that I wanted to spend the evening together and needed rest before work. She got upset and stopped talking to me. When we arrived home, my friend pulled up to our house. My wife made the decision to go to the party. I was furious. I walked up to him, saying I didn't approve of this, and asked him to leave. But my wife got out of our car and got into his. They drove off. Furious, I turned on her old iPad, which I had bought her many years ago. I could track her location. I tried to stay awake, but I fell asleep around 3 in the morning. My wife still hadn't returned. When I woke up in the morning, I found her in our bed. I didn't know when she had come home. I got ready for work and left without waking her or kissing her goodbye. This had never happened before. I wanted her to understand that I was angry. Before leaving, I took the iPad and threw it into my bag. At work, after a meeting, I pulled out the iPad. A notification from Messenger popped up. My friend's name was typing. I opened the app and saw their conversation. Although messages in this app are supposed to auto-delete, the outdated version still displayed them in real time. My heart sank. My friend was making crude comments about the events of last night. He also mentioned that other guys had fun too. And then it got even worse. I saw my wife asking him to send her an explicit video, which he did. I was horrified. I ran to the restroom and threw up. Shaking, I asked for permission to leave work early. I drove home. My wife was still sleeping in her bed. I asked her to come downstairs. I sat across from her and asked her to tell me everything that happened last night. She claimed she just drank, played pool, and socialized. That's all. Then I asked when she last talked to my friend. She said they exchanged a couple of casual messages in the morning. I dropped the bomb. Would you change your story if I said I saw your entire conversation with him this morning? She burst into tears. The first thing she said was, "Are you going to leave me?" She admitted she couldn't clearly remember, but acknowledged that she had slept with my friend and another team member last night. She added that there might have been other guys, but she wasn't sure. I was horrified. I asked if this was the first time, and she confessed that it had happened before. Once, even in our house while I was sleeping upstairs. That was the breaking point. I helped her pack a bag, and she left for her family's place. She begged me not to tell anyone. It's been 2 weeks since then, and I don't know what to do. I hope this isn't the worst case of cheating, but it's hard to imagine anything worse than catching your wife cheating with people you welcomed into your life. And learning that it had been happening for months is unbearable. She blames alcohol, says she will start going to AA meetings, and now wants to go to couples therapy to fix everything. I think it's too late, but I feel weak and go through a whole range of emotions, including guilt. I have a meeting with a divorce lawyer tomorrow. I want to believe I am making the right decision. No matter how bad she feels and how much she wants to fix everything, I can't even talk to her without replaying that video in my mind. I deserve better. There's nothing left to fix here, right? I'm not a bad person, am I? Any support or advice would be greatly appreciated. It's incredibly hard to stop caring about someone who betrayed you so suddenly. First update. I sincerely appreciate your advice, support, and positivity. I realize it's been almost a month since my first post, and many of you have been wondering how I've been doing. Unfortunately, The situation has gone from terrible to something incredibly sinister. There are no words to accurately describe it. I apologize in advance for the length of this update, but there's no other way to convey just how devastated I am. A few days after my first post, I followed your advice and scheduled consultations with several lawyers so that if I decided to go through with a divorce, I'd have options ready. My wife knew nothing about these meetings. We didn't communicate for several days after my post, but she insisted that this time she was truly going to do whatever it took for us to go to couple therapy. That's exactly what I had been asking her to do for months before D-Day, just to understand if we had any chance to fix things. But deep down, I already knew my decision. She actually scheduled an appointment with a therapist, but the session was set for a week and a half later. During this time, I was obsessively tracking her every move through that damn iPad. I compulsively checked every message, Facebook, Snapchat, anything I could. After a week and a half of constant monitoring, I found no new evidence, and I started to think that maybe she was truly remorseful. And finally, the day of the therapy session arrived. The therapist sat us down and asked why we were there. I suggested that she tell her side of the story first. She left out some details but covered the main facts. After listening, the therapist turned to me and asked, "Do you trust her? What do you think about your marriage?" I just shook my head in disbelief and shock. Instead of answering his question, I said, "If I don't say this out loud right now, I'm afraid I never will." There was no going back for me. This marriage was over. Vows were broken, my trust was shattered, and I believe the only thing left to do is file for divorce. My heart pounded as I said this, and my wife broke down in hysterical sobs. I continued, "I don't know what can be saved in this relationship, but our marriage is over." At the altar, I was sincere in my vows, and I can't be honest with myself if I don't acknowledge that everything has been destroyed beyond repair. At that moment, I felt a slight relief, finally saying it in front of her and a neutral party, making it clear that for me, it was over. For the rest of the session, the therapist explained to my wife why my feelings and decision were completely rational, given the situation, and tried to calm her down. In my opinion, it went even better than I expected. The therapist insisted on therapy, but not as a couple, individually, so that we could each work on ourselves before ever considering reconciliation. Just to be clear, at this moment, I have absolutely no intention of reconciling, but at least individual therapy might help me. Now, before continuing, I'll say that I knew I was about to start a legal process that, if not amicable, could become incredibly messy and financially devastating for me as the primary provider in a state with no-fault divorce laws. Fast forward about a week and a half. By this point, we had both attended at least one individual therapy session. In her version of events to her entire family, she framed it as, "We're separating, but we're both trying to heal and get through this." She was still living with her family, while I continued my obsession with tracking her digital activity, searching for any sign that she was still engaging in her disgusting habits. It wasn't until last week that I realized there was one place I had never checked, the App Store. I looked at her iCloud download history and saw that nearly 2 weeks before D-Day, she had downloaded a secret messaging app on her phone. My heart sank. I realized that this entire time, she had been deliberately hiding messages from me, fully aware that I had access to her iPad. She insisted I keep the iPad with me to rebuild trust. But apparently, she never realized that apps downloaded on one iCloud device are visible in the history of any linked device. I needed to know what she had been talking about in that app. At that moment, I almost lost control. I downloaded the app on her iPad, tried a few of her usual login password combinations, and there it was. The truth. Not only had she continued messaging my friend through this app after our first therapy session, but she had continued sleeping with him, carefully scheduling their meetups around my work schedule. My stomach turned. I cried. It was Monday night, technically early Tuesday morning, around 3 a.m. I picked up my phone and tried calling my mom. No answer. I called my dad. No answer. My sister finally picked up. I told her everything I had just discovered, practically sobbing, and she immediately understood that I was on the edge. She insisted on staying on the phone with me, despite the late hour, until I calmed down. It took nearly an hour, but eventually, I regained some composure. After the call, I lay in bed, trying to sleep, but it never came. The hours crawled by, and I realized I had to go to work. I couldn't stay in that house anymore, and so I did it. I got the undeniable proof I had been searching for, that my wife was not only cheating, but also a shameless liar. I agonized for days over what to do with this information. On one hand, I wanted to tell her entire family, friends, and acquaintances so the whole world would know what kind of person she really was. I wanted them to see what she had done and continue to do. But I couldn't. The divorce process was already underway, and she could try to make it messy and financially costly for me. I started ignoring her texts and calls, and eventually, she took the step of coming over to check on me. I nearly lost my composure at that moment. I deliberately tried to appear indifferent. I wasn't sure exactly how to proceed. Less than a minute after arriving, she lost her patience and started yelling at me for acting weird. So I gave her a chance and asked directly, "Have you talked to my friend at all since that night?" Her answer was, "No, I blocked him everywhere." I asked again, "Are you sure?" She firmly stated that she hadn't spoken to him, that he disgusted her, and that she would never do that to me. Then I dropped the bomb. "What about this app? And what about the video I recorded on my phone, showing all your conversations, all the photos you sent each other, and the way you planned your meetups around my schedule?" She collapsed to the floor, sobbing, begging me for something, I don't even know what. I kept my voice steady. "Here's what's going to happen. I won't tell anyone about this, and in return, you won't fight me in the divorce. I will be fair, even if I don't have to be, but you will receive the divorce papers and sign them. Otherwise, people will find out exactly what you've been doing. The choice is yours." She left. 2 days later, she was served with the papers. Since then, I have kept my word and told only my closest family members. But I know for a fact, thanks to the Locator app, that every night, she has been visiting my friend at his house, where he lives with his mother. Her family thinks she's attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings every evening, but my location screenshots tell a different story. Second update. Seriously? Why the hell didn't she change her iCloud password? I don't understand why I keep gathering evidence, but I do. Right now, I'm struggling with anxiety, waiting for the period to pass when she still has the legal right to contest the divorce in court. While her family believes she is on the right path, which couldn't be further from the truth, she is actually lying to everyone. What hurts me the most right now is the sheer injustice of it all. How can she just live her life, pretending everything is fine, then sneak off to his place every night for a hookup, and then return home like nothing happened? Meanwhile, I go to work every day, come back to an empty house that mentally tortures me, and feel what it truly means to be completely alone in every sense of the word. These are the worst days of my life. I am living through this ordeal hour by hour, day by day, waiting for the moment when I can be sure that I will walk out of this hell without destroying my finances and officially leave everything behind. What I will do after that, I don't know yet. I'm just trying to survive until that moment. Third update. This is my third post here, and hopefully my last. My divorce is officially finalized. I waited 6 long months and 1 day to make sure my ex-wife didn't secretly take me to court without my knowledge. Now it's over. I have completely cut off all communication with her and finally feel like I can move forward. My last post was written 6 weeks after D-Day. What I didn't mention in that post is that I had already filed for divorce at that time. I followed the advice of many kind commenters who suggested returning her iPad and severing all ties to shared devices and social media accounts so that I would no longer obsessively track her actions. I knew enough. I knew what I wanted. My approach to the divorce process may have caused me more emotional damage in the long run, but it didn't hurt my wallet nearly as much as it could have. At the time, everything seemed logical. I came to terms with the fact that this woman would never deserve my trust again. I knew I needed to get rid of her, but I wasn't about to pay her nearly $2,000 a month in spousal support. We didn't even have kids, for God's sake. There was no way I was going to pay her a cent after what she did to me. I got angry, thought about it, and devised a plan to get out of this marriage as quickly and cleanly as possible without financial loss. Looking back, I'm not proud of the tactics I used to finalize my divorce without financial consequences, but in the end, it worked. That being said, I feel like my moral high ground may have taken a hit. Then again, that's debatable. From my perspective, My actions were nothing compared to the mountains of betrayal, pain, and fear she inflicted on me. By the time I wrote my last post, I had already filed all the necessary documents and submitted them to the court, waiting for confirmation. I hid this from my wife, who was still living with her family. Since the day I kicked her out, she was no longer welcome in my home. I tried multiple times to arrange a meeting to talk. I wanted to convince her that I still wanted to try to save our relationship. But that was a complete lie. During all these conversations, I made it clear that, in my opinion, our marriage was over. She had betrayed me, and if we truly wanted to start over, we needed to end this marriage first and then date again to rebuild something stronger. I still can't believe she fell for it. In reality, I was preparing to make the divorce as easy and secretive as possible for myself. A great example of this was how I handed her the papers. We invited a mutual friend over to my house, the house where we had lived together, to act as a third party during the signing of the documents. She signed the necessary papers, sealed them in an envelope, and didn't even bother to read them. I highly doubt she actually paid attention to the boring legal language because I had requested very, very favorable terms for myself, with absolutely no spousal support, aside from splitting what was left in our joint account at that moment. That was the biggest issue I wanted to avoid, paying her alimony. For the first few months, I actively played the I need time to think card and avoided her, only meeting with her about twice a month for dinner or casual conversations in public places to make it seem like I still cared. These meetings always took place in public, so that she couldn't later claim I tried to do anything bad to her. I kept up appearances. I kept playing the game. I made her believe that I was really working through my emotions and accepting what had happened, trying to find the strength to forgive so we could reconcile. Meanwhile, I had absolutely no intention of doing that. By keeping her on the hook, I was able to gain her trust again and remove her from my bank accounts, rental agreements, and even move all her belongings from our home into storage. Once I was done, I convinced her that we would find a new place together and that removing her things from my house would help me heal from her betrayal and move forward. By lying to her and keeping her in a state of submission and cooperation, I made all the hard parts of the divorce incredibly easy, and she thought she was doing the right thing for us. For months out of the 6 that I needed to endure past like this. Then, at the beginning of the 4th month, I received a message from a relative she was living with. They asked, "Are you two still trying to work things out?" This relative knew about the affair and everything that had happened. To maintain the illusion of reconciliation, I responded, "Yes, why do you ask?" And I got a reply with a picture attached. A photo of my ex-wife and my friend having dinner at a restaurant in another city. The message read, "This is happening right now. It just so happened that this relative was out with co-workers and saw them together." That's when I made a mistake. I let my emotions take over. I texted my wife, asking if she could talk on the phone. She replied with a lie, saying she was at an AA meeting and would call me back when she was done. Then I sent her a message. I didn't know AA meetings were held at restaurant name, and that your buddy is now your sponsor. She immediately called me, screaming, accusing me of stalking her, and acting crazy. I fired back with a few choice words and told her I was no longer interested in talking to her. From that moment on, she officially started dating my ex-friend. I blocked them both on all social media, but through mutual friends, I still heard bits and pieces. More and more people started reaching out to me, asking what was going on. Apparently, my ex-wife was becoming bolder, posting relationship updates and photos with him. When people asked me about her, I told them everything they wanted to know. Almost all our mutual friends and most of her close relatives were in shock, and I truly believe they took my side. I asked them not to stir the pot until the divorce was finalized. Valentine's Day bombshell. As time went on, their relationship became more public, and I started getting more and more calls and messages. Eventually, I had to ask people to stop updating me on my ex's life, because it was continuing to hurt me emotionally. Then, just a few days before the divorce was finalized, Valentine's Day arrived. That day, I received 3 separate screenshots from 3 different people, all showing the same post from my ex-wife's social media. In the picture, she and my ex-friend were hugging, with a romantic caption that read something like, "It's amazing how God sends you the right person at the right time. I'm so happy and blessed. I hope this man is the one I'll marry someday. When one door closes, God opens a window." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were even confused comments from distant relatives and acquaintances asking, "Who is this guy?" along with a few shocked emoji reactions. I wish I could say I didn't care, that it didn't affect me, but it did. Deep down, I still felt an overwhelming sense of loss. But at the same time, I was completely disgusted by her. I hated the fact that I had never seen the monster she truly was, even after all these years. And as for my ex-friend, I have zero respect for him and refuse to waste another second of my energy on him. He'll get what's coming to him. After all, he's now stuck with her, the woman I no longer recognize. And in a way, that brings me some peace. Finally, the day of the divorce arrived. I never received any last-minute legal papers, and my ex's window to contest anything in court had passed. I successfully walked away from the marriage with my entire retirement savings intact. I didn't have to pay her a single cent in alimony. I left the marriage debt-free, and I did it without lawyers and without a lengthy court battle. At the end of that day, I blocked her number. The next day, 7 of my closest friends, 6 of whom were mutual friends with my ex, threw me a divorce party. They posted photos and videos on Snapchat all night. It was an event worth documenting. Because of that, every single one of them received a full block on social media from my ex-wife, along with some nasty messages. The last internal struggle. There's one last internal battle I'm facing, and I could use some advice. During my obsessive digging through her digital traces, I discovered something. While all of this was happening, she also slept with a guy from her hometown. The problem? That guy is an old flame of hers, but he's married, and he has a kid. I've been struggling with whether or not I should tell his wife. I feel ashamed that I haven't said anything yet, but at the same time, I'm terrified of being responsible for breaking up another family. I don't want to carry that burden on my conscience. Should I tell her? Should I remain anonymous? Or should I reveal my identity? This question has been eating away at me like a parasite in my brain. It makes me sick to my stomach, fills me with anxiety, and even gives me nightmares from time to time. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Final update. 17 days from now will mark the second anniversary of my D-Day. Honestly, looking back at my previous posts, I can say with certainty that I never imagined I would make it this far. The pain, the weight, the fear, and the depression I endured because of my ex-wife's actions were almost unbearable. I hope this will be my last update. It's been over a year since my last post, and this past year has been the first time I've finally been able to focus on myself. I have no updates about my ex-wife or her life because I have completely removed her from mine. What happened after the divorce? After the divorce was finalized in February 2019, I did everything I could to avoid any contact with my ex-wife. But that was easier said than done. I never spoke to her directly, but from time to time, I would come across posts from distant relatives I hadn't blocked yet. Or friends would casually mention something they saw on Snapchat from a mutual acquaintance. My true friends try to keep this information from me, but some things were impossible to hide. The first major shock came in May 2019. One of my best friends called me and said, "Dude, your ex-wife is getting married to some guy from Tennessee." Wait, what? It turned out to be true. One of her friend's husbands had not blocked her on Facebook and was able to take screenshots of what happened leading up to the wedding announcement. Keep in mind, this was between March 2019 and July 2019. Apparently, her relationship with my ex-friend didn't last long after our divorce was finalized. I don't know the details or how it ended. Honestly, I wish I knew, but it didn't surprise me at all. By April, she started posting vague statuses on Facebook, hinting that things happen for a reason, dropping cryptic messages about falling in love. Then, out of nowhere, in July, she posted a picture. She was standing with some guy no one recognized, holding hands with wedding rings on their fingers, geotagged in California. The caption read something like, "So excited to start this new life with such an amazing man. Feeling blessed. Tennessee, here we come." I understand that my story, from my first post until now, might sound unbelievable, but I swear on everything I hold dear, this is the absolute truth. At that point, I couldn't contain my curiosity anymore. I reached out to one of her relatives I still had a good relationship with to get more details. Apparently, she met this guy online and had been talking to him for months over the phone and through text. They fell in love. and he proposed to her over the phone. She said yes, and they couldn't wait. Within a week of the proposal, she notified her family, invited them to the wedding, and got married in a small town 2 hours from her hometown. Her new husband flew to California, and they got legally married on a Saturday. That day was also the first time they ever met in person. But now, they were husband and wife. The most shocking part? According to her relative, none of her family attended the wedding. They got married without any kind of ceremony, which, I'm sure, deeply upset my ex. By Monday, they had packed up her things in a moving truck and drove off to Tennessee. I couldn't believe it. Enough people confirmed the story and timeline for me to know it was true. But at that moment, it felt surreal. That poor man. If only he knew. I'm sure if he had known, he wouldn't have married her in California, a no-fault divorce state, because he might end up in the same situation I was in. For a while, I pushed them both out of my mind. I took some comfort in the fact that they moved far, far away, and that I would never have to see her again. Final thoughts. I don't know what the future holds for me, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. I still have moments of sadness, anger, and regret, but they're becoming less frequent. For now, I'm focusing on myself. To anyone who has ever gone through something similar, stay strong. One day, you'll wake up and realize you've made it through the worst, and that day will feel amazing.